Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk about a hobby that I got started into. It's a free-to-air satellite. It uses these big old dishes and the smaller dishes. The smaller dishes uses KU band and the big dishes uses C band. As you saw, you can put the KU band on the C band. You get a better, easier way to point it, but it's wasteful. You can still use these small ones. You need a 3 to 4 foot dish, mostly 4 foot, but I don't have that. This still worked though. These bigger dishes are really heavy because they're fiberglass, but it's all I have at the moment. I plan to get a rotating one. So let's take a look at this hobby I got started. I took and put together this monstrosity. So I'm taking this one back down and redoing it. As you see in here, I have a KU band head. The channel I was watching with this, I now watch on here. I get 101 West here, using this KU band head here. Which I got this one all rigged up. I got it grounded and everything. It's grounded to the ground. This is a old hot water heater tank. So that's 103 West. So I took my other dish and put it on a concrete barrel and pole. Yes, I know over time that will biodegrade and rust and I'll have to replace it, but for now it works. So I will use it for as long as it lasts. I got a C-band here. The dish has a little bit of damage here, but it's still getting signal pretty good. It does rotate, but this is not the proper way of doing it, so you have to move the LMB at certain stations to make it come in better. But most of the channels I'm after is towards the south anyway, they're close together. So here's the other barrel. And so I'm going to take that satellite here, the one back there with the makeshift frame, and hook it here so it'll be more sturdy. And then they'll all be pointing up here in the sky to the south. Now it arches as it goes, so later on I need to get a proper rotating one. These will be permanent. So I will permanent point these. As you can see here in the wind, this one wobbles because of the unstable frame. This one, as you can see, is not wobbling. This is not the proper way of hooking it up though. This is a sturdy mount off of a smaller dish. I gave it a try over here and it worked. The frame ain't what gives. It was the pole piece that I hooked up that was making them move too much. So far this is working. Later on, when I finally pick the place I'm going to permanently point it, I'm going to connect it from the barrel down to here to give it extra support. The biggest downfall about using these big old satellites that has the fiberglass, the wet snow sticks to it and you lose all signal. I know there's different things you can put on to help, but I haven't done that yet. Instead, I've been using a squeegee on a pole to come out here and clean it off. Okay, so I took the satellite dish that was here and I moved it all the way up there. Then I installed this box and roof over the box to connect cables here. I still got to bury these cables. So dish A is now here, and I'm installing a trailer hand crank jack onto it. you see, I made some brackets and bored them to 2 different spots, and a bolt with an eye bolt, and the eye bolt is loose on there so that it can rotate as it slides, as you see here. Now, it is starting to scrape the dish a little, so I'm going to now attach this piece of inner tube there. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, I've got the inner tube piece attached here. Now, one of the downfalls to the satellite is that when it snows like this, you lose your signal. If this was a mesh dish, it would melt faster, but this being fiberglass, it will last longer, so I have to clean it while it's still fresh on there. As you see, it comes off quite easily. You just don't want it to freeze on there. As long as this is on there, you won't get signal. Now, my caps I put over the reader heads of the C-band are actually just plain old trash cans. They won't last as long as a real cone will, but it keeps the weather off of it, and that's the only thing I care about. They're cheap and replaceable. Okay, I got the satellite dish mostly clean. They will sit there and drip the rest of the day off and finish melting. I should still be able to get signal right now if I wanted to watch any TV, which most of the time I watch a little bit at night on these things, mostly on the weekends for one channel. It's what made me get into this. It's a lot of work, but I got them cleaned. I used a squeegee taped to a pole. Okay, I've been having troubles with wind with my jerry-rigged up stuff. It does wobble some in the wind, but not much. I have gotten some problems just as it was rotating. So I'm now starting to drill holes and put in pins. Now I purchased pins, but they were too loose, so I'm using bolts. It's a lot cheaper anyway. And that keeps that permanently on 101 West. Later on, I will drill other holes for the other channels. So we'll walk up here real quick. Okay. So as you see on this one here, I have a lot more holes drilled. And on 101 West here, I took and put 2 bolts. It's the only hole that I put 2 bolts on because this is the channel that I want to leave on the most. I will use the other channels to watch on, but this is my favorite spot to leave it. And I got tired of the wind messing with it. I also took and removed off the crank bar. That was just for experimental to see how well it did. It gave too much give in the wind. This satellite here is more uphill and gets more of the wind on it. So as I'm going along experimenting on these, I do over time want to get some mesh dishes. These things really catch the wind. They catch every bit of the snow. I have to fight Mother Nature to get the channels to come in, but it's working. On this hobby, I'm not using no satellite pointers. I manually hunted every channel down just using the search bar on the box, so I did it the hard way. Okay, I've got a lot of TV cables to start burying. This here's a junction box where I run it from there to the house. This is just an old box that I kept out with some junk. So I'm running this to 3 TVs, and one of the big satellites is being split to 2 rooms. It's a power pass splitter. You can use it for antenna and satellite. And then down here I'm running it to the dissect switches, and it's connecting the small satellite to a big satellite, and it's connecting the other part of the small satellite to another big satellite, to 2 different TVs. And then one TV is just hooked to one of the big satellites that's being shared. These switches are great if you're just wanting to hook a bunch of satellites together to one TV. That's called satellite farming, to where you can do direct point and never rotate them. But trying to do 3 satellites, it makes it a little bit harder. But that's what I got rigged up so far. Okay, this is not the proper way of hooking these satellites up, but it's all I had, and I jerry-rigged this all up. So I've got it rigged up to where one of the 4 poles runs in from here, so if the pole gets hit by lightning, it goes into the frame and it runs into the ground. And there's a ground rod here. And then the TV cable has a ground, and it's grounded down to the frame. And that takes the lightning and static out of the cable to the pole. And I know over time these barrels will rust and destroy themselves, but for now it's temporary until I can get better equipment. I just wanted to slap this up as fast as possible so I can watch some TV. My problem is that I've been watching a lot of TV on antenna, and I do have peg TV. I'm not like completely got away from that, but there's channels on here I can't get elsewhere. And yes, most of my equipment is jerry-rigged. As you see there, I used a piece of metal banding and just hooked it onto an old used dish. So the KU band heads pick up one type of signal, and the C bands pick up a different signal, and you can get different channels with each on some of the same satellites. Some satellites don't have both. I was watching a lot of my TV channels on the antennas, like this one here. And they lowered their TV signals, and it's getting harder to find. Then they took some of my favorite programs off, and I found out I can get it through free-to-air satellites, so I took this up as my new hobby. It's not perfect as I'm working it up, but it works. It's doing a lot better since I stabilized it by drilling holes in the pole, by making these pins out of bolts. It's making it where the wind quits rotating it for me. And I know some of you might say, well, just tighten this down and it'll stay. No. If the wind's strong enough, it don't matter how much I tighten this down, it still just has a little bit of pull. Okay, well, this isn't the right way of doing this, but it's my way. Eventually I'll try to get better equipment, but for now it's working for me, so I'm happy with it. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you are installing a satellite, which is already installed. This is the small dish. The small dish outside the 103 West KU, the small one. You will notice that sometimes the signal will drop out. That's because there's ice on the dish. And when there's ice on the dish, it messes with the signal. The type of receiver I just bought cheap, so it wasn't made for here where I live, so I had to erase what was programmed in it and manually hunt for the channels myself. So I used these signal bars here to hunt for the channels, and slowly pinged for them and made marks on the pipe until I got them marked. Okay, and this is the big dish's signal. As you see, the signal is a lot lower. Each satellite has its own signal strength, and the channel, this is actually showing the signal of the channel that I left it on. The big fiberglass dishes do bring in TV, but they're weathered, they're old, so they're not doing exactly perfect, but they are working for me good enough that I can see the TV channels. If you can afford it, go ahead and buy yourself a satellite pre-programmed for where you live. If not, you will have a lot of work ahead of you. It took me 2 months just to get what I've got so far, and I still haven't found all the channels. There's some that I just can't get to come in. I'm not giving up on that, it's just I'm hoping to see if I can find a used mesh dish. If I can find a mesh one, I can fix that problem. Okay, so that's what I'm doing so far on my hobby with the free-to-air satellite. This is what's been keeping me busy so far, so much lately, so I haven't been making much other videos. I'll give you updates on this as I go along, and I'm going to try to get back to making my other videos as well. Well, if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, and thank you for watching. And remember, this isn't the proper way of doing it, this is just how I'm jury rigging it up.